Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Braythan Experience. I'm Nathan.
I'm Brayden.
Today, we're going to be talking about NFL and MLB news and updates. Well, we got a lot of stuff coming up here in the NFL this season. We're nearing away towards the end of free agency, but we still do have a lot of storylines. Like, you heard about OBJ, right?
Yeah, OBJ. He got signed to Baltimore for 1 year, $18 million.
You know, I think that perfectly translates into the Lamar Jackson situation. I think because OBJ, I believe he said in an interview that he said that wasn't guaranteed anything. He wasn't guaranteed that he's going to play with Lamar. So he could be playing with Tyler Huntley, who made the Pro Bowl last year. Probably shouldn't have made the Pro Bowl last year, judging that he was a backup almost the whole year. But, I mean, I think OBJ and Lamar Jackson could be a really good duo, and I think he's easily one of the best receivers that Lamar's played with. If Lamar ends up playing with Baltimore for this season.
He probably is the best receiver. The only competition he really has is Hollywood Brown. And
yeah. What team is he on now?
He's on Arizona. Where's number 2? Hollywood Brown had a decent season for the Cardinals. Of course, that kind of got sent back when Kyler Murray tore his ACL.
Yeah, that got chopped up when they were in their backups.
But he looks like a solid receiver for the Cardinals, and OBJ will look like he's either going to do really good or really bad. That's my take.
He was rumored to go to so many different teams. Like Buffalo was in there, Dallas was in there. Dallas was one of the heavy players, and Dallas's fans like to think that they're getting everybody though. But Dallas and Buffalo and the Ravens obviously were there, but the Chiefs were there too, because the Chiefs, after trading Tyreek Hill, who said he was going to retire, you hear that?
After 2025,
after
right?
his contract expires. They've been kind of poor on the wide receiver aspect, even though they obviously won the Super Bowl. They obviously, having a superstar wide receiver like Tyreek Hill could have bolstered down that Super Bowl win by like 20 more points.
I agree with that. I feel like having a great receiver would have scored them a lot more points than they did. They have a great quarterback, great O-line, great tight end, and a great running back room. Their only missing piece is a receiver.
Yes, say DeAndre Hopkins gets traded over to Kansas City. I think Kansas City absolutely deserves to be the Super Bowl favorites over the Bengals or like the Dolphins or whoever you want to have picking. I think the Chiefs become favorites if they land a superstar wide receiver such as DeAndre Hopkins. But I've also heard that in some NFL trade rumors that the third overall pick could be included in a package deal with DeAndre Hopkins. What do you think about that?
That would be really crazy. But a lot of teams do not have the value to meet up to.
Oh, absolutely.
That.
I've heard that their asking price is very high for Mr. Hopkins. So I think with the third overall pick though, this draft class is very loaded with almost every talent. I think that with the third overall pick, you can get a good player on every side of the ball. Like, obviously, if the Chiefs had it, they would go for one of the probably awesome offensive linemen that are in this draft. This draft class is loaded with offensive linemen, and I think that if that pick were to get traded, that would be its most likely use.
Yeah, probably. It could not be. It could be traded to another team other than the Chiefs too. Like, if
Buffalo's still in it.
Yeah, Buffalo's still in it. Or if a team that really needs a quarterback wants to trade up.
Yeah,
and get one.
A quarterback needy team who, okay, imagine this. A quarterback needy team, let's say Indianapolis. Who do they already have like the fourth overall pick?
I think so.
Let's say Indianapolis wanted to move up.
Oh.
If Indianapolis was able to move up their draft pick, if they were able to get number 3 overall and DeAndre Hopkins, they could get an elite quarterback who obviously depends on how it pans out. But you could be getting an elite quarterback and DeAndre Hopkins, which would be just an incredible pair to have on your rookie year. Like Josh Allen and some other quarterbacks have had to wait a couple years to get their star receiver that have really helped shape them out. Like Tua getting Jalen Waddle and did I say his name right? Jalen Waddle?
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That's really helped shape him up as a player. So getting that package deal would be insane for like a team like the Colts. Coordinators.
Ooh.
The Eagles lost both their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, and I think their special teams coordinator is the same. I think the Eagles, I believe, have the toughest schedule in the NFL, followed by the Bills. And I believe that the Eagles are in position for kind of a bit of a fall off. I don't think they'll be making it back to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, the Super Bowl fall off is going to be crazy. They lost Hargrave, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a lot.
Yeah,
They've lost a guard.
They've lost a good amount of talent. They have an insanely hard schedule, and they've lost both their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. So players that were there the year before obviously have to learn new systems and playbooks depending on how drastically different the new coordinators are for them. Yeah.
It's going to be a rough season for the Eagles, but they could turn out like the Seahawks did this year, expected to lose a lot of their games, but then ended up making the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm definitely not counting the Eagles out. That's not the way that I think anyone should hear this. The Eagles, I don't think they should be counted out, but I think they'll be looking for a little bit of a drop-off from the Super Bowl appearance.
They'll probably be a first-round exit, but still make the playoffs.
It all comes down to if they make the playoffs or not. It doesn't matter what their record is, but the NFC East is going to be insane this year. I mean, you've got a lot of talent in the NFC East, and it'll be a fun one to watch play out, just kind of like the AFC East. They've got a ton of talent in the AFC East, even the Patriots, who are kind of favored to be not really favored to be kind of the lowest team in the division. I think that they'll still probably be able to compete for a possible playoff spot, even though they're poised to be the last in the division. The Beasts of the East.
Yeah, that really is a good point. Probably about 13 of 16 of the AFC teams could probably fight for a playoff spot. Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
The AFC, I think the AFC is by far the better conference than the NFC.
Well, there's no doubt about that, but like almost every team can compete for a playoff spot when in the NFC there's like three super teams and that's it.
In the NFC in the AFC you have a ton of teams that could compete for the number 1 seed. Like in the AFC you have the Dolphins could compete for the first seed. I would like to think that they won't. The Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills. I think the Jets are overrated. I mean, they haven't traded for Rodgers yet. I've heard that there's been a slowage in trade talks between them and the Packers on Rodgers. I don't think that the Jets are really going to pan out to what everyone seems to think they're going to be. Everyone thinks that Rodgers is going to play like a Brady role, like he's going to completely revamp the franchise, although the Jets do have a bit solider of a team than when Brady was first given to the Buccaneers. But I don't think that the Jets are really going to work out the way that everyone's saying they are.
But it also looks like the Russell Wilson situation last year where big quarterback gets a lot of control in its situation, and then everyone expects them to win 12, 13 games, and then they fall off.
I think the Broncos could be poised for a similar win total in performance like they were last year. I think Sean Payton, he's a huge person to bring in for head coach on the Broncos. And I think if Russ gets a little less control, because obviously that experiment hasn't worked out, giving him a majority of the control of the team, I think giving Sean Payton more control, I think the Broncos could really be a good contender this year for probably not the division, but a top wild card spot. I think the Broncos could compete for that with new coaching.
They could probably sneak in a 7th seed.
They definitely have a lot of talent.
Them and the Raiders are definitely a dark horse, and the Browns.
With the Raiders and the Broncos, I think that they're overshadowed by obviously having the Super Bowl champions at the top of their division. I think people are like, okay, well, the Super Bowl champions are in the division, so that means that they're probably not going to do like the most success in the world.
Yeah, but the Broncos and Raiders, they're definitely overlooked too because of how poor they did this season. But
yeah,
you gotta remember these teams have so much talent.
With Garoppolo moving into that Raiders system, I think Garoppolo. I think that could go one of two ways. I think Garoppolo can really prove himself that he's not a system quarterback, and I think he could also just plain downright fail in Vegas.
Well, he could also prove that he is a winner because everybody but Niners fans said that he wasn't a winner.
Yeah.
And maybe he could prove everyone wrong.
Well, let's go over to some of the new rules this NFL season. Obviously, players can wear 0. The first player who, I believe still the only player who announced to wear 0 was Calvin Ridley. who I think if Calvin Ridley is able to play back to the standard that he played when he was on the Falcons, correct?
He was on the Falcons, and then he got traded to the Jaguars.
I think Ridley can make a huge difference. You know, the Jaguars, everyone kind of laughed at him last offseason. You know, they signed Zay Jones to an insanely huge contract. You know, they've been signing a lot of guys who people don't think that they're able and worthy of contracts that are worth big money and like big years. I think people laughed at him a lot, and you know, they came out and proved an incredible season. You know, they won the playoff. They won their first playoff game, correct?
Yeah, against the Chargers.
Winning a playoff game as a team like the Jaguars, where you're fresh off 2 back-to-back first overall picks and winning a playoff game. I think Doug Peterson has really done a number on the Jags, and Calvin Ridley can make a huge difference, and maybe put the Jags as a dark horse.
They're one of those teams that can definitely compete for a number 1 seed.
The Jags can definitely compete this year.
They're gonna compete, but
because I think that the AFC South is not gonna have a great year other than the Jags. I would take the Jags as a lock to win their division. There's not much competition in that division.
It depends on how the Colts spend their draft time and off season. Then they can compete for a wild card. Otherwise, this division stinks.
I don't think did the Colts make any like really big free agency splashes.
No, not yet. I don't think so. But
I don't think that the Colts. I think that they're probably going to be a 4th place team. I think the Texans. I think the Texans have a good future. I know the Texans have a few young guys, and I think that their future could be really good if managed correctly.
The Texans are making a lot of moves this offseason, and the Colts and Titans aren't keeping up with all these news.
I think for my prediction for their division, I think the Jags will win their division with 13, 14 wins, which obviously, crazily enough, wouldn't win every division. But I think that division could easily be won with 10 wins.
Yeah. Most divisions, though, most teams are not going to have like over 11 wins because of how competitive the division is. Like the AFC East, the Bills are probably only going to have 11 wins. Their division is super competitive, and their schedule will be tough.
Exactly. Now let's move it over to very early. Our first topic of discussion, which will probably be the main part of discussion here with our guest, is the Oakland Athletics are seemingly going to be moving to Las Vegas, and obviously they bought a chunk of land in Vegas, and they've basically said that they're planning on moving and shifting their focus to Vegas.
Vegas is not a very good spot to move, but the movement is a very good move. I really think that Vegas is not a good place because of arrests.
Well, it could be a good place. It's probably going to draw in more than their average 15,000 fans they have in Oakland. The stadium's going to be a lot nicer and newer, unlike the Oakland Coliseum that it's currently at. The place is not so nice. It's trash all over the place.
It's basically the Washington Commanders of the MLB, if you think about it, except the Commanders got sold recently. We talked about that earlier.
I think this move can be very beneficial to them. I think you're kind of screwing over the city of Oakland. As you know, the Oakland used to have an NHL team, MLB team, NFL team, and NBA team. And obviously the Golden Seals moved a long time ago. But then you had the Warriors leaving and the Raiders leaving, and now you have the A's leaving. And you're leaving Oakland without a team. And I think the fans of Oakland probably – you're losing a lot of fans with this move. I don't think that fans are kind of fed up with them losing all their teams recently.
I don't think they're losing much fans. They don't have a lot of revenue they're bringing in.
I think they have enough fans. I just think that they're putting on really bad teams on the field and on the court, and they're just not doing well.
Yeah, Oakland baseball hasn't been relevant since like a long time. I wouldn't want to go watch one of the game. That's probably why the attendance is so low. They don't have exciting young players that most people want to go and see.
And that'll do it with our guest. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me out here on this final of the day. It was a great enjoyment to be on this great podcast.
That'll about do it for the first ever edition of the Braythan Experience. Thank you, anybody who's listening to this, for listening. We know this might not be our best stuff, but we sure hope that you enjoyed it, and we hope that we can improve and become your new favorite podcast like we claim in the cover art.
Thank you. We're signing off. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you to our
Thank you for
guest.
listening. Thank you, and good night.
We'll be right back.